yo, this Foodie.
Yes. Yeah. Freddie JB.
Two stupid dogs.
Yo, Sudi,
Yeah, man, it's Freddie JB.
and it's Two Super Dogs Podcast.
Two stupid dogs.
Yep.
Sure alive. How's everybody doing, man? What episode is this, brother?
Uh,
think it's
79.
79.
I think. I'm sure. 79, yes.
Damn, Dylan, we're moving, man.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
79 episodes, man.
That's a lot of content. That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Oh, my
Yes.
God. Sometimes we've been shuffling, and we missed a couple of weeks, but we try to stay as consistent as possible.
All right.
You know, but as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we have a guest with us today.
Yes.
We got the awesome Dylan Conley,
Thank
and
you,
he
thank
is
you.
running for Congress.
Yup. ConleyforCongress.com.
That's it.
You can, check it out and be critical. Come at me right now. I mean, we're live. You can ask questions.
Yeah, man. Listen, first of all, can we just get a hint?
Appreciate you coming.
Appreciate that. I appreciate that.
You have to, man, because there's not so many times we get congressmen on here or people that's really trying to make a change. You know, we obviously we're entertainers, right? We're entrepreneurs, we're small business owners, so we usually get a lot of people in that realm. So for you to come on here is really big for us, and I just want to reiterate that we appreciate it, and we really want to have you on here to educate everybody, our listeners, us as well.
Sure.
So moving forward, but thank you again, man. Honestly.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the opportunity and, be able to have the conversation with you guys and your audience. Sometimes in the political realm, you end up talking to the same 7 or 8 people 100 times, and there's no value there. So the opportunity to branch out is huge. I really appreciate this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, man.
So tell us about yourself.
Yeah, man.
Sure. So professionally, I'm an attorney. I'm the chairman of the Province Board of Licenses. I represent a series of municipalities: East Providence, Johnston School District, Westerly. So I know local government through and through. That's sort of my professional background. Personally, my wife and I live on the west end of Providence. We have a 19-month-old son.
Wow,
Copeland.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Copeland?
Copeland.
I like that. That's strong.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a strong name.
Real quick tangent. So I'm excited for this moment when he's 10 or 11 years old and he's anti all things girls and he's being a little bit of a jerk, and then I'm just gonna let him know that he's named after a ballerina because
No,
I took the name
shut
from
him down like that.
yeah,
That's funny.
The Misty Copeland documentary. That's how we got into it. So
Wow.
we're gonna get him. We're gonna get him. But I'm excited about that.
That's so cold, man. Imagine him just bucking out. You know what? If let's not hope this on anybody, but if he's like a bully or something, listen, you better relax your ass, man. You're named after a ballerina. I will tell people, and you'll see how
Your name sounds strong.
but it really not.
You're elegant.
All right,
Be
you can
elegant.
do a plie,
Yeah.
and everything like that. But first off, before you continue, let's do a cheers.
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
Cheers to
cheers.
you.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers to
Salud.
Rhode Island.
Thank you.
Cheers
Salud.
to Providence. Salud. Absolutely. And as you can see, we're doing the social distancing. We gotta comply.
Gotta stay safe.
That's
stay
right.
safe.
That's right. But continue. So, you started as an attorney, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm originally from East Providence. I've been in Providence for a little over 8 years now. I went to LaSalle Academy, then Boston College and Florida State Law School. Went down south for a little bit. My wife's from the South. For those of you that don't know me, so my wife's African American, and kind of the part of marriage is always trying to see the world through your spouse's eyes. And there's a bit of a change from Northeast private school and law school kind of guy to black woman from the South.
Wow.
And-
Well, first of all, hand clap because you married a sister. You know what I mean? You married a sister. Come on. What?
That's
black
true.
Woman? Yeah,
That's true,
Yeah,
though.
when
Ain't nothing get past her.
they don't play that.
No,
but yeah.
no.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of things that I think for a long time I appreciated. The way I like to talk about it is I appreciated it academically. And I didn't really appreciate it experientially because you don't know you're in a bubble because you're in a bubble, the very definition of living that life. And marrying her was been the most important thing in my life for a million different reasons. But from the political realm, to speak to this particular moment, is it has opened my eyes in a different way to what America really is and what America has been for a long time. And that has been, it has put a fire in my belly in this moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I think it's one of those things where it's like living outside of what it is of the black experience or whatever, right? And now you're married to a black woman, right? Even if you had a bias before, not saying that you do it, or you do. Once you marry into that culture, as you the people that you love becomes, you know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where it's like I can't really relate to you because I don't know you or love you as a person of I love you. But when you start, it's like, oh shit, that really does affect them, or that really does affect that. And wait, why does that? Why do I get this, and why does she get that? And it's like, I think that is one of those things where I've always told people, just mix.
Yeah,
everybody just mix, man. It's like culture. It's one of those things. We should all become New York, as far as like New York's a melting pot of like
cultures,
of cultures and things of that nature. So families should be the same.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And
I agree.
And don't shy away from like learning each other's culture too.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean. I think a lot of people, just because they feel like they won't understand it, they stay away from that. But it's like, no, talk about it, because I mean, at the end of the day, you have Copeland now, and he's gonna he has to understand both aspects. You know what I mean? So
one of the things that's give me the courage to do is give me the courage to be wrong. And like what I mean by that is, I mean, you try to step out of your own comfort zone and you make mistakes, right? I mean, you have slip ups, you say the wrong things, you don't understand perspectives immediately.
Right.
But because it's family now, it's A, a safe space, and B, really important. And what it's just done is like, all right, if people understand where I'm coming from, if I don't get something quite right, tell me.
Yeah.
And I'll learn from that moment and I'll get better. And that is so much more important to me than just trying to like wait and hide on the sidelines and try to avoid like these challenging kind of moments.
And if somebody don't say anything to you, you'll never know. You know what I mean? And I feel, and that's kind of, and it's weird to say, but that's kind of what I'm learning now too. Where I'm at, because before, like having other friends, you know, and I never really checked them and just kind of told them like, you know what, it's kind of wrong to say, you know, whatever. I never said that. I just kind of chuckled and let it slide. But now it's like, especially now, it's like, no, you should know. And as your friend, I'm doing you a disservice.
Right. Without the feedback, people don't realize that they're making a mistake.
Right. Absolutely.
And I mean, speaking for myself, if I'm making a mistake, I need to find out, because
especially
I want to keep getting better.
Absolutely. So, all right. So you're running for Congress, right? So a lot of people, and I don't want to downplay anything, but I would assume so. A lot of people in the urban community, when we hear Congress, we kind of don't really know what that means.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's pretty much like, are you running for governor? Or, like, we know what the mayor is. We know what the president is. So I really just wanted to use this opportunity for you to kind of explain what a congressman does. What change are you apply? What can you do and what can't you not do?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
So I think I want to talk about it two different ways. The first way is like, why is it really important right now? And the second is, why is it important in general? So why it's really important right now is every time there's an economic downturn, tax revenue dries up.
Gotcha.
Now, for cities and towns and for states, it's a huge, huge, huge problem because they are legally required to balance their budget. They cannot spend more money than they have.
Sure.
So when you look for help in a pandemic and an economic downturn, it's not coming from cities and towns, and it's not coming from the state because they don't have any money.
It's coming federal.
It's only coming from the federal government because the federal government can print money, can loan money, and they can spend way beyond the money that they're taking in. They're the only party that can do it. So right now, if you need help, it's going to come from the federal government, or it's not going to come.
At all.
At all. It's just not that people don't want to help.
Yeah.
They just don't have the resources.
Right.
I know everyone that works for Providence. I know everyone that works for the state. I know, I have connections with the governor, and I know how badly they want to do more. I also know their fiscal reality, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So for right now, Congress is where you will either be saved or left behind. That is what Congress is in this particular moment.
Gotcha.
If I can talk Trump for a second,
Please. Absolutely.
Not a fan. And one of the most interesting things that I think has been talked about, I thought Andrew Yang was actually really eloquent about this. He says, like, the problem isn't Trump. Trump is a symptom. And, it's really that we don't have equal opportunity in this country, and people are furious about it.
Absolutely.
Right? So why don't we have equal opportunity? That's Congress. They are the designers of the national economy. And I think if you talk about problems with education outcomes, problems with housing, problems with health, at the core of all of those things are poverty. You can't have an honest conversation about any of those things without talking about poverty.
Oh yeah.
Congress has designed the system which perpetuates poverty and maintains that the stock market can still go up in the midst of a pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
They built that.
The rich get richer.
Wow.
Yeah. So people think it's the president that built that.
Right.
No,
Right.
that's Congress.
And it's funny that you said it because when you listening to your debate, you kind of hinted at that. You were saying that Congress don't really deal with low income stocks. It's pretty much just high, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The massive company stocks, and they're able to do that.
Yeah.
And when you went on, you were saying like we got to eliminate that.
Yeah.
You know.
So, like, my opponent is basically a day trader. I mean, he trades six figures in like a day on tech stocks.
Crazy.
Meanwhile, he regulates tech stocks. So let me ask you this:
The referee.
if he can lose tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars by doing a policy that helps the American people but hurts the stock, which one is he going to do? Now, I can't say that there's anything in particular that I can point to that he's done the wrong thing. I'm just saying, I'm talking about incentives.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's not the only one in Congress that does this. It's the majority of them. The majority of them own stocks like that. So they don't own small businesses. They don't get a cut of working family income. They get a cut of corporate income via stocks.
That's it. So
So they're going to take care of stocks and not small businesses. And in Rhode Island, I don't know. I've never really bumped into a billionaire walking around on the street.
Me neither.
Not a whole lot of
you never
Fortune
know,
500
but-
companies. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? You know.
Never know. Yeah.
So like this is an economy built by the small guys, by the working families, by entrepreneurs, by small businesses. And every time there's a downturn, Congress doesn't bail them out because they don't have any skin in that game. Their skin's on Wall Street, not on Main Street. And I think that's unacceptable.
And one of the things you said, and it stuck with me, is literally too small to care.
Yeah. I mean, that's a
Too
real
small to
policy.
care.
They keep on pitching too big to fail, but that's not real. I mean, capitalism is actually born from allowing companies to fail and then be reborn without debt. We don't need to go into the economics of all that. But if you look at what Congress has really done, they bail out the big guys and let the small guys dry out because they're too small to care.
It seems like it's one of those things where they try to bail out the big guys because they feel like it's a bigger corporation, and the trickle down effect of them losing whatever money that they're gonna lose would affect the economy more than the little guys. When honestly, the mom and pop shops and things of that nature are what the driving force of a lot of things. You know, a lot of your community places. I think it's weird to me because it doesn't just because. So let me ask you this. I always thought about this as like one of those things of where what incentive does a big corporation have to keep their word as far as like, oh, we're gonna keep people employed, or we're gonna, you know what I'm saying, getting them breaks?
None. They actually have a legal duty once you become a publicly traded corporation. So there are laws involved which basically say if you're going to be traded on the stock market, you're taking the public's money, so you owe them a duty. You owe shareholders a duty, and you owe them a duty to maximize profits and to maximize the value of the shares. So when they say they're going to take care of the workers, that's PR. They have a legal requirement to take care of the shareholders.
Okay.
So if you own Apple stock or if you work at Apple, they care way more about your stock than you as a person.
Absolutely.
And that's a result of a literal law we have in place. So when I talk about Congress has designed the system that created this, they wrote that law.
Wow.
So that's the sort of stuff where, like, there's no national dialogue about this.
Yeah, nobody. Yeah, this is mind blowing me right now. I'm like, wow.
That's why.
Because I just always thought about it. I'm like, what does this say? You get this tax break, right? Or these breaks that you get, and they're like, oh, there is no written document that says you have to have these people employed, this amount of people employed, or you know what I mean, or they could just say, hey, we're looking to get more jobs in here. You know what I mean? Can we get this tax break or whatever? Can we get this? And it's like, to me, it's just like, what laws are we putting on them to make sure they have this level of employment going on there?
So let's talk about the airlines real quick, because this is a current example. In 2008 it was the car companies, but the airlines, right?
Yeah, now that's a big hit right now, right?
They could have let them go bankrupt. Now here's the interesting thing that happens in bankruptcy. There's a priority of debts, right? The company doesn't go away. If American Airlines files for bankruptcy, that doesn't mean you can't fly American Airlines anymore. It just means that the people that American Airlines owes money to, they don't get that money anymore.
Yeah, that's all it is.
So the shareholders lose all their money, Everyone else keeps their job
Yeah.
because the airline still flies. So why do they bail it out? They tell you they bail it out because people are going to lose their jobs. In reality, it's to maintain shareholder value.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, and it's crazy because it wasn't Trump, like, he filed for bankruptcy like 7 times. That's kind of how you kind of stay rich, too, in a sense. You know what I mean?
So let's talk about, like, why this matters on, like, at a granular level to all of us in this room, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when that bailout goes out to the airlines, every single time there's a dollar spent somewhere, that means it's not spent somewhere else.
Okay.
So that dollar went to airline shareholders instead of to our personal stimulus package. We got $1,200 once.
Yeah.
We could be getting it every month.
Every month. That'd be beautiful. But
Instead, we spent that money on airline shareholders.
so what? That's crazy.
That's the trick.
That's crazy.
Meanwhile, they sell it to you by telling you they're protecting jobs.
Of course.
Not accurate.
Media controls everything. They'll tell you one thing and it's not really what it is. Wow. So you're saying all this, and I can see you're passionate, right?
Yeah. I got a little bit of energy about this.
Yeah,
moment.
no, but this is beautiful because now I really want to ask you what drives your passion? What drives you to do this? What was it something that happened and you were like, you know what, F this, like I got to make a change, or it was just like, you know what, this makes sense right now, you know?
So all this sort of stuff is the stuff that drives me crazy on background in my life. Right?
Okay.
I can't help myself. I read all these economic things, I listen to all these economic podcasts. It drives me insane. But it wasn't anything I was really doing. Like I was focusing on the law firm and raising a family, and you know, my wife and I we rent out some units in our house, and all that was kind of like the focus, right? And then the pandemic hit, and I'm just watching all the things that on background I've been complaining about for so long become very, very real very, very quickly. And then kind of seeing whenever it gets tough in America, systemic racism goes from a constant problem that is hidden from our view to something that leaps to the forefront. And I thought that thing, so we have this economic strife, we have systemic racism moving back to the forefront of everyone's attention. And
meanwhile, all this dirt is going on nobody knows about. You know what
which
I mean?
is the sort of stuff
diverting our
like,
attention.
That's why we're here. So for me, you know, the riots hit Providence, and my initial perspective on that was just like, if I had been living that life, I would have been at least that angry. And I know a lot of small business owners, so I went down to like see all the broken glass and all that, and it was kind of making me feel like these systems are making people do things that they wouldn't normally do.
Right.
No one wakes up in the morning and is so angry. You know, I would say that. No one's born so angry that they want to destroy property, but people are mistreated over the course of their entire lives that they get to a certain place.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's one of the things that always strike me as weird, that people don't understand or can't see what led up to it. They only see the destruction of it.
Yeah,
and it's like smart people understand that they're the cause and effect of things.
Yes.
But it seems like nowadays, or the time that we live in, or just in general, people are just like, but you guys did this. And it's like, no, did you not see this, and this?
Everything that led up to that, you know what I mean?
And I don't think that people piece things together as like a whole of like, you know, people be like, hey, slavery was not long ago. All right, well, after slavery was done, was there not continuous disrespect of that race?
Yes.
Yes. So
yeah, it was gonna happen again. I mean, the biggest thing is that I take away from it, right? You know, I understand it because we're all small business owners. I mean, we understand, and definitely the looting definitely hit us like, wow, like that shouldn't have happened. But at the same time, it's like, how else are we gonna get your attention?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the thing.
Like,
that's the thing.
what else do you want us to do?
It's just been ignored. It's been ignored. All right. So this is. I have this moment where I'm walking around and I'm thinking to myself, like, this doesn't happen unless without these systems imposing this upon these people.
We're at a breaking point.
Yes. So, and when I say these people, I mean everyone involved. I mean from the business owners to the people that were there that night to just my wife and I at home, right?
Absolutely.
So then there's rumors that that night it's gonna go to my house, like go to my. I live on the park over by Cranston Street Armory.
Gotcha.
So, I like my son, his bedroom's closer to the street than my wife and I. So I said, like, all right, I'm going to sleep in the front room. Like, what else are you supposed to do?
Gotcha.
And you feel a special kind of ridiculous that the only thing you can really do in that moment is sleep in your front room. And that's when I decide, like, I'm definitely going to do something more.
Yes.
And in that moment, I'm coming from a place of anger. And then I went to the Black Lives Matter protest in Providence.
Powerful, by the way.
Unbelievably powerful. Unbelievably powerful. And it completely shifted everything I thought I was doing. I thought what I would do is I would run for office with this anger and be like, just trying to identify the systems that are creating this world that we're living in. And when I saw that moment, I didn't feel like I was alone. I felt like there was a massive social mandate for change, the likes of which I had never seen. I mean, 10,000 people took to the streets in the middle of a pandemic.
Providence.
Unbelievable.
Insane. And it's crazy too, because I'm gonna crack a joke here, but black people have no unity. Like, we're terrible to come together. So for us to come together because of one cause like that, it really it shows something. Like, no, like, we actually march down those streets because we're fed up. You know what I'm saying? And I felt the goosebumps from then on, and even some cops was showing the respect, and it was just powerful, man.
All of a sudden, to me, it was like, boom, I saw it. 2020 isn't a moment of utter disaster. It's a moment of hope, because we have a social mandate for change. We have a level of demand for change I've never seen in my lifetime. And at the federal level, the most likely outcome is that the Democrats are going to control the House, the Senate, and the presidency, which means there's no blocks for new legislation.
Right.
So all of the things that normally stop us from doing serious legislation that changes these systems that are putting us where we are today are gone.
Wow. People
want change. The right party's in power, and they have no incentive to do anything other than huge sweeping change. It could be, we could do more in the next 2 years than we've done in the last 50.
Yeah.
So what does change look like for you?
Yeah. So what I like to call it the gushup economy. I think you hit on two things when you were speaking earlier. You talked about sort of the incentive structures and the trickle down phenomenon. The reason why trickle down doesn't work is when the money goes to billionaires and shareholders, they actually don't need to spend it. Okay. They have plenty of money, so they can save it. So every time there's savings, that's actually inefficient. An economy only grows when money's being spent, not really when money's being saved.
Gotcha.
So the only way that trickle-down money actually gets to us in Providence is through employment. Unemployment's high during a pandemic, which means
really
not really going to get to us, right?
Yep.
So what I call a gush-up economy is you do several things all at once. Each one of them by themselves is just like a little bit of extra money for working families, average Americans per month. But when you compound them, it's a big deal. You expand the earned income tax credit. You expand the child tax credit. This one I really like. It's called the American Families Act.
Heard of that, yeah.
Yep. If you really increase the child tax credit, you can actually do something really interesting with it, where instead of paying it out at the end of the year, you pay it out each month. And I don't know about you, but my bills are monthly. They're not annual.
And they don't stop.
Yeah, right? So
I don't even look at my mail. I know it's a bill.
True.
Right.
So you do that. You have the earned income tax credit. You raise the minimum wage $15 an hour. You do Medicare for all. Now, when you do Medicare for all, you actually cut people's expenses. You give them more freedom to move jobs. A lot of people stay with a job for the healthcare, not because it's the best thing for them. That job might not be right for their career, but they need the healthcare.
They got children.
So you start to do all those sorts of things, and I think people think if I give you $5 and then $5 more and then $5 more, sort of like a linear improvement in your life. No, it's exponential. If you think about, if you have like 200 extra bucks a month for month after month after month, what that means at the end of the year, you probably had some random car problem or something that you could pay cash for.
Yeah.
That you're not trying to pay off that credit card on.
Right.
Over time, that has a huge impact. So that's what I like to call about the gush up economy, because when average people have money, they spend it.
Of course.
And when they spend it locally. When they spend it locally, they spend it on small businesses.
And mostly Amazon.
A lot of Amazon right now.
A lot of Amazon, Lord. Trillionaire.
But like if I had a couple of extra $100 a month, I'd be going to more shows.
Yeah.
Or
honestly, we would be putting it into our business.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or
Yeah.
trying to start a hobby, which would turn into a business.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
the biggest thing,
go ahead.
and I agree. No, and the biggest thing is just like, reading a lot of testimonials for people is like they were never able to save. It was always
yes.
paycheck to paycheck.
Yes.
So this extra income, they can save it for a family vacation, a rainy day. This helped immensely for the family that can't, urban families or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? So, and I like the fact that you said the gush. You know what I mean? It makes sense. And when you hear the testimonial, it's just like, this is the way it should be.
So when you think about every time you spend $1 on trickle down, not that whole dollar gets spent in the economy, right? Every time you spend $1 on gush up, that same dollar kicks around in the economy several times. So instead of getting less than a full dollar of economic activity, you get more than a full dollar of economic activity.
That makes
so
sense.
gush up economics is a natural multiplier.
Okay.
So your return on investment from the federal government standpoint is way higher than when
Right.
you do trickle down.
Right.
It's just a return on investment for the country instead of your portfolio.
Gotcha.
And they historically vote for their portfolio instead of their country.
Wow.
Uh,
So I
Go
mean,
ahead.
no,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna break in. So we talked about the pandemic a little bit. So what was your take about it? I mean, Governor Raimondo, she had a really tough job.
Yeah, she
and
did, yeah.
she really showed up every single day in front of that podium. And
yeah, you can say what you want about her, but she was there
She
every
was
day,
trying.
and trying
Yes.
her hardest.
So, what was your take on that? I mean, a lot of the things, I remember watching the debate, the bars getting shut down at 11, so businesses and mandating masks. So,
Yeah.
what was your take on how well she did, or what maybe something you would have done different, or you know what I mean?
I mean, the first thing is, I would have assumed that the Center for Disease Control would have had a plan for a pandemic. Like, this isn't the
That
first
is one
time this
thing you said,
happens. This
yeah.
is a thing that does happen,
Yeah.
especially in a globalized world. And so the fact that there was absolutely no centralized federal response in any way, shape, or form puts governors in a really tight spot.
Right.
So, all right, so now she's in a tight spot through no fault of her own. And then you don't really know exactly what the health problems are because it's a brand new disease. So it's not about risk, it's about uncertainty. You don't know what's going to happen. So you
Right.
have to overreact because you don't know what the downside is.
Absolutely.
So you shut everything down. Here's the problem when you shut everything down. It's way harder to start everything back up.
Yep.
The vast majority of small businesses only have enough money to last weeks, maybe a couple months worth of cash to pay all their bills. So if you shut everything down, you gotta cover the losses somehow. And we didn't. And when we weren't covering the losses, the way we're reopening is confusing to me. I have a hard time understanding why we aren't expanding more services. Like, let's take delivery of alcohol, for example.
Okay.
They got to it. They did it 5 or 6 weeks into the shutdown, I think. Maybe a little longer than that. Maybe a couple months. I don't understand why we couldn't do it on day one. I mean, now, if I go from losing from an 80% revenue cut to a 60% revenue cut because now I can deliver alcohol, that's a couple more weeks I can keep my doors open.
Yeah.
So if you did that earlier, that's a few more weeks you can make it work.
Absolutely.
That's a few more weeks you can keep people employed.
Yeah.
It's a few more weeks until maybe the next bailout comes, that sort of stuff.
Or adjusting it, fixing it, or however. Exactly.
So if you're not really aggressive, and if you don't move really quickly, businesses close because of that.
I was just about to say that. Now businesses are closing.
Oh, yeah.
What do you do? You know what I mean? I mean, there was some sort of a help with the loan to small businesses, and as long as I think a certain amount is going to all the employees and whatnot, so it did help boost the businesses to stay open.
Yeah.
But if they did that a lot sooner or didn't shut down all the way, that would have been.
So let me know if I'm
better.
wrong. I think one of the things that you talked about, I don't know what podcast or were you talking about on it was somewhere online I watched. It was basically about basically kind of like did big businesses eat up whatever they wanted and then it trickled down to whoever else can have it versus you want it to be reversed.
Yeah.
It was like
So
they get what they need first and then big business get it last, or depending on how many people needed it.
So I think you're talking about the PPP loan because
Yes.
that's sort of the bailout program that got to all the businesses. So the way the PPP loan was structured is that banks got paid by the government based on the size of the loan. Now, let's think about what incentive that creates. You want the biggest loan possible, which means that Bank of America isn't going to go to Broad Street to try to find someone to give a loan to. They're going to go down Wall Street to find someone to get a loan to.
Yep.
That's why these mega corporations were getting all these loans, right? They don't need them. They have access to financing,
Okay.
right? So every publicly traded company has access to financing, and every company basically over the size of 500 employees definitely has access to financing. They have a whole team that's dedicated to nothing other than financing.
Right.
So if you switch it, small rule change, where instead of the size of the PPP loan being how banks get paid, you get paid the same for every single loan. So you shift that. Now they're trying to give out as many loans as possible as opposed to big loans.
Right.
If they had done that, you would have seen Bank of America, Bank RI,
Yeah.
Phil in the financial institution walking up and down the street, banging on doors saying, hey, I can get you qualified for a PPP grant. Because that's how they would have gotten paid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I'm going to bet why they didn't. Because they don't own any of the businesses on Broad Street, but they do have interest in stocks.
Gotcha.
So that little rule change that never gets published anywhere, that no one ever talks about,
Nobody knows.
guarantees that the stock market stays high,
Yes.
and it comes at the cost of small business.
Wow. On the backs of the little men.
That's how it is. Now, here's the other reason why we talk about being inefficient versus being a multiplier
Okay.
is those guys would have gotten, the big guys, the big corporations, they would have gotten the money anyway. They just would have gotten it from a traditional banking program. The small guys, try walking into a bank right now and getting a loan if you're a small business.
It ain't happening.
Right?
It ain't happening.
So, by giving the money to the big guys, money they would have gotten anyway, less total money is moving through the economy. Because if you had given the money to the small guys, they would have gotten the money, and the big guys would have gotten the money anyway. That's double the money moving through the economy right there.
Wow. And instead they avoided that. That's insane.
And it's what they do again and again and again and again. I mean, it's why we have two economies right now. We have people that make money off of the stock market, and we have people that work.
Yeah.
And the workers get screwed over every day.
Every time. Well, speaking about workers, so now we're dealing with, obviously we're still in the pandemic, right? So now we're having an issue where kids need to go back to school.
Yeah.
Now you have teachers, you know, it's going to be, I'm assuming it's still going to be virtual, but you also got people that need to go back to work. They can't stay home with their children.
Right.
So how do we combat that? What is the better way? I mean, it's going to be virtual. What is the way that can, you know, something that can help the average day parents deal with this in a sense?
Yeah. So, I don't want to be a broken record, but there's some things you got to keep coming back to where this complete failure of federal government leadership here again.
Oh, yeah.
We've known that this was going to be a problem since March.
Yeah.
There's no plan. So again, now here we are, the small guys at the bottom trying to scramble to try to put it together because no one else is doing the work. And
then it's COVID. You can't let somebody random watch your kids. You know, what I mean? Daycares are still shut down. So it's like, what do people do?
And the same solution won't be right for every family. And the same solution won't be right for every district. But there are some things that I think you can do that just could have alleviated all sorts of problems. I mean, if you think about the government controls all of your airwaves, right? Your frequency for your cell phone, for your Wi-Fi, for the radio, for television. Those are all government permits. They could have flooded all of those with completely free education classes for every single age group. And it would have cost them next to nothing.
That is true.
Then what teachers could have been doing is just working with the students individually off of those national programs.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not an expert in this. It just seems like it was right there, and no one bothered to do it.
Wow. But what do you think? What do you think is? Do you think the reason why they didn't do it is because there was no money in it.
Yes, that is
You know
what I
I'm
believe.
saying? Like,
Yes, that
in
is
a
what I
way.
believe.
Like, because everything it has to be money.
Yes.
So there's no money in it. It doesn't seem like it's gonna benefit us, so we're not gonna do it.
Yes, that's what I believe. And
Wow.
it's because I don't think the people that have been in Washington for a long time, or the system that exists in Washington, they only write the legislation that's handed to them from lobbyists. And lobbyists only write legislation they're paid to write. So there has to be money behind legislation in order for it to exist.
Right.
I'm looking to be that sort of sore thumb guy in DC that's sitting there just grinding out and doing the work on my own. I don't need to rely on a lobbyist to write the legislation. I could do it. And I can explain to you exactly why it should be that way. And just get that out in the public, get that out in the conversation. And it's just so simple. I can't imagine it doing anything less than catching fire.
Right. But it's weird because you say it's simple, but why is it not done? What?
See,
that's what's the scary part, right?
That's what I look at politics and look at.
It's like if it's that simple, why is it not being done? And it always falls back. And I just said it earlier. It has to be money.
It has to be money.
It's not benefiting
so,
them.
All right, that's my biggest thing, and we talked about. I told you before the podcast, we both have our dealings with politics, right?
Yeah.
I'm neither a Democrat or a Republican. It's
yeah.
whoever.
It's
whoever,
confusing.
To be honest with you, I've never voted.
Okay.
In my life. I mean, we talked about this on the podcast.
September 8th, man.
Yeah. So I was gonna get to
That's
that.
what I'm saying.
Where do we vote? Where we vote?
So
go ahead.
I look at things, right. I'm not the smartest person in the world, right? But I can tell when somebody's being genuine and honest to me.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? And I look at things that very layman's terms. You know what I'm saying? Like I can look at both parties, and to me, it's like, all right, you guys both have people that live here in this country. Why can't you guys get along? Oh, you guys can't get along because all for profit.
Yeah.
You don't really care about. That's what takes me away from like.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to deal with any of this because I know it's not for us. You know what I'm saying? And it's not no shot to you. You seem like a very good guy.
Yeah.
And and it's
You're
just
drinking beer with us.
yeah. You seem like a very good guy. And
Yeah.
what do you
like that
say to
song.
somebody that has that type of attitude towards politics in general? You know, because I look at Congress right now, right? And to me, it's so simple that why would you try to fit so much stuff into one bill instead of doing things in chunks so you can get things done? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It seems there's some things that I like Nancy Pelosi being like, I want this, or I want that, and it's like that's not even needed right now.
Yeah,
You need to fix what's going on right now. People need
Yeah.
money. Let's take
Yeah.
that's whatever is really necessary right now. Let's get that done. Then come back, get the rest of it done. I think they try to fix stuff at once too much.
So
But,
one of the
yes.
things that they like to do is, all right, let's say I know that you really, 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 really need something.
Yep.
And I've got this thing that doesn't really have anything to do with that, but you need my vote in order to get your thing. So I say, all right, well, here's the deal. I'm going to glom on my little weird bill about, I don't know, bailing out oyster farmers in Apalachicola to your international bill about the pandemic. And that's how that happens, right? So that's sort of the politics
horrible.
of it. It is horrible, right? Everything should be judged on its own merit. But that's not the way our system works, right? Like let's talk about campaigns in and of themselves. If they were judged on their own merit, we'd have legally required debates, and my opponent will be meeting me regular to have these conversations. Because I'm running against an incumbent, they just hide back.
Wow.
Hope the media doesn't pick it up, right?
Wow.
So to get to what I would say to you is I think you are correctly recognizing the amount of ways in which the government does not serve you well. But I would ask you to consider that that's the exact reason why you do need to participate and not a reason not to participate, because it will not change if the people that vote today are the people that benefit from this system.
Okay.
The people that don't vote today are the people that get hurt by this system.
That's true.
And as long as those people keep not voting,
Yeah.
it will never change.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest thing is that, everybody don't realize that, everybody looks at, oh, we got to vote for the president. This is what they're focusing on. But no, like the biggest is like vote within your community.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of
Yeah.
people forget that. People like your mayor, this congressman.
Yeah.
Like this is what we need to vote for, because this is where the change is going to happen first. and then everything else. You know what I'm saying? So people forget that. And
I'm a big believer in that. So like professionally, I am the lawyer in the background of all the local government stuff. And if you seriously think through how many different ways government touches your life in a day, it's a ton. When you think through how many of those interactions are local government as opposed to federal government, you start to realize how important it is. Your schools, your streets,
everything.
Yeah, I mean,
we don't call the president to fix these potholes in Providence. like it's pretty shitty, man. So we need to vote for people that's gonna make that priority.
Exactly,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
I'm tired of changing my tire, man.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm trying to say. But it's,
exactly.
people forget, being like, oh, we got to do it. It's like, no, but you didn't vote for the person that's really making our streets a priority.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And that's a very real thing. And so if you think about what I was just saying about the people that vote and people that don't vote and kind of how that ends up in outcomes. So let's take it all the way down to the local level. There's a lot of districts where you only need, I don't know, maybe 1,000 votes to win a race, right? Let's say, I mean, how many Facebook friends you guys got? Like, think it's kind of easy, right? To get that 1,000 votes,
yeah,
right?
That's true.
And it can just be your people.
Right.
Which means it's not about who you are or your policies. It's not about your merit. It's just because you're popular. So if that's the way we're choosing our elected officials, we're not choosing them based on what they can do. We're choosing them based on, I know this guy.
Yeah, popularity.
And that's easy to do because of the amount of people that don't vote in local elections. If everyone voted in local elections, you need way more votes. You have to actually earn it. You have to go on merit. You can't just go on the friends and family line.
Wow. That makes
That's
sense.
what happens.
That makes sense. All right, so I'm going to be optimistic here. So when you win. When you win.
Yeah.
All right, so what is something that as soon as you kick in that door, you got your office, what's the first thing you're going to tackle?
Monthly stimulus for every American. That's absolutely number one. Secondary to that is basically like, if you don't do that, no matter what else you do, it won't work quite right because that's how hard it is to access cash right now.
Wow.
So if you give people access to cash, then you can deal with other things. I think obviously healthcare is a big issue right now.
Yes.
The other thing you can do is the federal government can backstop all local governments, which basically means if they had a budget for $100 million and they only brought in $90 million because of the pandemic, the Fed can cut them a check for the other 10. That way, none of the local services stop. So that way teachers are still getting paid, that way, the streets are still getting plowed and things are still working on a local level. So you can do that for a full year and kind of reassess. Once you do those two things, you've essentially flooded the economy with cash that will be spent immediately. And then you buy time to do bigger things.
I like that.
But that's why it's got to be monthly stimulus, though. This one-time thing is nonsense. If I give you
Canada getting monthly, like why can't we get some love? Come on,
yeah,
you know what I mean.
But this is a weird jump. But you bring up Canada, and they've got one of my favorite policies. All right.
Well, I'm with you, but I had to because I'm looking up at Canada like, come on, man. Like maybe I need to.
They got this thing, right? They got this thing where they're taxing carbon. And so people don't like that because stuff gets more expensive. So what do they do with the carbon tax? Did they put it into the government's pocket? No. Every single Canadian gets a check. They get all the money directly from the carbon tax. So the oil companies in Canada are now sending money to every single Canadian every month.
God damn.
That sounds like a good idea to me.
That sounds beautiful.
So a listener asked, but what if prices are driven upward after monthly stimulus?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and normally this is driven by the universal basic income question more generally, and it's fundamentally a question about inflation. Inflation is when demands for goods so far exceed the supply of the good that the cost of the good goes way up, right? Inflation really isn't driven by ability to pay. It's driven by ability to produce.
Okay.
So as long as we can continue to produce the goods at the same rate as the demand, we should be okay. So the follow-up question is, will demand grow so much that we can't produce at that level? I'd argue no, because we're producing at an incredibly low level right now. We have way more production capacity in the United States.
Wow.
So I'm very, very, very confident, definitely for the duration of the pandemic. And then we got to use the data for that to understand what would happen in the future, that it would not cause inflationary problems.
Wouldn't it
put
level
policies in
out?
place.
Because if we're spending more money, then it will just trickle into the economy. And
Hopefully it kicks around more.
Yeah.
Hopefully it kicks around more.
And that's
Gush,
the
man.
fear.
Gush, I'm
Gush
loving it,
versus
man.
trickle, man.
Come on,
Yeah.
baby, you got to use the right term. Man.
That's why- yes.
So, I mean, we're not done yet, but I really want you to reiterate, like, how do people vote? Where do they go? What is the date? What is the time?
Okay.
Like, talk to us, because people don't know.
So you can actually go vote right now. So early voting this year is no excuse necessary. You can go to your town hall, your city hall, your local board of canvassers. They check your ID. You got to bring a picture ID.
Okay.
And they print out your ballot, and you can fill it out right then and turn it in. So that's kind of like
Right
at
in
your
City
convenience. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Pop right down to City Hall. They'll set it all up for you. So that is a great option this election. That's not always true. But this election, that's an option. And then generally, September 8th, that's your primary. Your primary in Rhode Island is very commonly more important than your general election because Rhode Island is almost all Democrats. So it's always Democrats versus Democrats. So if you only vote in the general election when the president's on, you've already missed all of your local races.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So you need to vote in both. So
Wow.
September 8th is the big date for Rhode Island for local elections. It's when my election is.
Okay.
So a little bit of bias there, but ask anyone, I promise you. The primary is really, really important in Rhode Island. And so September 8th, there you got to find your polling station. You can find that out at the Secretary of State's website.
Okay.
You can Google Rhode Island Secretary of State and the Rhode Island Board of Elections. You can find out where your local voting location is.
Gotcha. Okay.
Take advantage of that early voting. You never know what's going to happen. Life's weird, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you wake up on Tuesday, you got a cough, you don't want to go out in the world. Okay. But you should have voted earlier. You had that chance. You could have gone to City Hall.
Excuses, bro.
Excuse my ignorance. I don't know how things work, but would winning Congress or being a part of Congress affect your regular job?
Yeah. So it's all gone. I have to walk away from everything. So
Okay.
this is a very substantial career risk for me. It also would involve my family living simultaneously in Rhode Island and Washington, D.C. So this was not the right time for me to do this professionally. This was not the right time for me to do this personally. It was the right time for me to do this for the country. This is a special moment.
So you're basically like putting your family in an uncomfortable position to make the world better.
She riding, though. She a sister. She riding. She riding.
Yeah, she was like, okay, she
I love it.
took it. It was kind of like deep breath, like, all right, this is a lot. I've been working. If I'm awake, I'm working right now, right? And I still have my job. I still have the campaign. I have my son. I'm still trying to hang out with my son like 2 to 3 times a day if I can. I'm pushing as hard as I can possibly push. But let me tell you, one of the reasons why you don't see more young people in Congress is because it's really hard to do with a young family.
It's your whole life. You gotta walk away from a lot of stuff and
a career I've been building for years and years now. Networks I've been building.
So was this your goal, like always, to run for Congress, or it just? I mean, I know you said because of the pandemic.
No, great question.
Yeah.
So I always figured I would do it eventually. Like my campaign line, and very honestly, was after my son kind of was in high school, didn't want anything to do with me, then I would go run for office.
Oh wow, gotcha. Okay,
but
like Malibu's most one.
Like in my mind, my delusions of grandeur, like when he was born, was like winning Little League championships. Those are the things that I was kind of like, all right, this is what I want to do. But this is not a moment in time for Little League. This is a moment for some bigger things.
That's right.
So yeah, I mean, it's something I did want to do. This is stuff I care about. It's stuff that I understand. I can't help myself. Like every book I read is about government policies and economics and all these things that are basically being ignored, and like the history that you're not really taught, and all those sorts of things. And it kind of defines who I am on a very personal level. But in this moment, it wasn't enough for that just to be like about me in my own space. I had to bring that out into the public space.
Gotcha. And one thing I wanted to mention is like, all right, so when you win, you got to change your whole life. You have to walk away from everything.
Yep.
So one of the things that we always talk about, because this is also a pop culture type of podcast, it's in the sense of like, we always talk about cancel culture.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And the weirdest thing is it's like, we've seen people change their lives or whatever. I mean, they probably was tweeting, drunk, crazy, whatever. And then now they're like, they're this big person or whatever. And then people always resort back. So How do you feel about that? So now you're running for Congress. You're like, babe, look, I'm gonna run for Congress. She's
Spotlight.
like,
You have something to tell us right now.
I was like, did you go straight to your Twitter and start deleting like everything? Like, how does that?
No, it's a really good question, and like there's a couple
You have to
close friends, right? That
Right.
I was like, should I do this? Like, is this a good idea? And this was the thing that they brought
I
to
don't
me.
know, bro. You
They
was
were
at
like,
my bachelor party.
if
like,
you got, yeah.
you know.
And I mean, I do kind of have the good fortune of being kind of just like a very between the lines, boring kind of guy. Although I'm Irish, so I enjoy a beverage. So there's probably a story or two out there. But yeah, I think cancel culture is an example of a pendulum shift, which is really, really, really important because things were being swept under the rug that never should have been swept under the rug.
That's true.
But the thing about a pendulum shift is it's got to come back. And this is the way I think cancel culture shifts back, is it becomes less about the thing you did wrong once and more about what you've done since that moment, what you've learned from that moment, how you've tried to correct for, apologize for, recover from. And I think those are all really important things. I mean, I think a lot of cancel culture has been responded to by saying, like, so what? And I think that's the dead wrong answer. I think a much more complete answer, and where I think we need to go culturally, is to say, this is a thing that happened.
Yeah.
I've learned that it was wrong. I should have known it was wrong then. Here are reasons why. They're not excuses. Here are reasons why I didn't really understand it. I want to offer these apologies. These are things I want to do to try to improve or how I want to contribute to it. Because if all we do is just wipe out anyone that's made a mistake,
Everybody. Then there'll be nobody
who's
left.
left?
In this world.
Listen, the way I
No one
think
will step
now is
forward.
not how I thought when I was 18.
No, seriously.
You know
I'm
what I
pretty
mean?
sure my
That's
Twitter
10
has
years
some-
ago,
What?
I do say some wild stuff now.
Well, yes,
but it's
imagine
all,
that.
Yeah, imagine then. You know what I mean? So it's
Right.
like, I'm not 100% on cancel culture. I'm 100% on what is the man or woman doing now?
Yeah.
What is
How did they write their wrong?
Yeah.
I mean,
you know
all
what
right.
I mean?
So I'm a big Celtics fan.
Oh,
Which
yeah,
means-
my man.
which
Proud of
means-
him. I like him already. You know what? He got my vote, man.
I have taken great pleasure in hating on LeBron James.
What? You just messed up.
So here it is. So here it is.
LeBron
Here it is.
worshiper. All right, go ahead.
My
Worship
go-to,
is kind of worship is kind
too.
of weird, but
my go-to is like, I love to throw him under the bus for the decision. But everything he's doing now,
Can't hate it.
I can't even hate him anymore. And I want to hate him because it's just fun.
You can't.
But he's doing too much.
You can't.
He's doing too much. I can't hate him.
promise, school, man. I promise.
Yeah,
And
no, that's amazing. I promise, school.
and that's my biggest like debate about him and Mike. It's like Mike definitely has more accolades as far as like you know,
Well, of course.
yeah, but as a man,
Yeah,
he's just better. LeBron's just better.
yeah.
better as a man.
Yeah,
It's kind of hard to dispute. Like, I mean, he's changing the way sports interacts with political activism
Yes.
forever.
That's right. That's
like
right.
shut up and
It's-
dribble is just like
Oh no,
it's
that drove him.
Yeah.
That she did not know what she did when she said that shit. Because now he's like, oh yeah, all right. Now I'm gonna make a stand. Now you know what? We're not even playing in the playoffs. Like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he's
and it's
going
just
to go.
it's the chess pieces that LeBron has, or the political moves that he makes, or you know, just in general that he's getting smarter with the things that he talks about, he doesn't talk about, and he just you know he's just becoming a better human being by you know not only playing sports but understanding like yo, I am LeBron James and I can affect whatever I want to affect because
Right.
there are people that look up to me.
Yeah.
You know what I
then
mean?
It takes guts. It takes guts because
Yes.
he's got a lot at stake, right?
A lot.
That was the original Michael Jordan kind of thing, where I think what MJ was speaking to in his time was you need to recognize how fragile this is. Like the NBA wasn't the NBA in quite the same way.
Yeah.
The voices of minority athletes, they had less powerful ground to stand on because they didn't have a Michael Jordan before him. LeBron's got a Michael Jordan behind him, right?
Yeah.
Everyone stands on each other's shoulders, right?
That's right.
And I think seeing the NBA realize its own power, and a lot of that is actually a lot of WNBA leadership on that front.
That was
too.
cool too.
Oh, yeah.
The
Yeah.
ladies walking in with the shirt. smelling
Yeah.
chicken. Oh man, powerful.
You know, I think people realizing their own power and
Yes.
just kind of actualizing that.
And
If you see that as just someone sitting at home and you watch the NBA do that, you think to yourself, you know what? I can stage a walkout
yeah.
at work. I can do one at class. I can do one at,
I love that.
and it just starts to compound, right?
Yes. Standing up for what you believe in, not caring what people say.
I really hate to use this moment to pivot back to the campaign because I feel it's very selfish, but there's something very critical about the campaign for me is when we decided to do it in the beginning, the people that I brought on, we all agreed that the number one thing we would do is we would lay it all out. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't use inside political people. We would use people that hadn't come from this world, and we would learn how to run the campaign, learn by doing. And if you learn how to run for Congress, you can run for any other office. And we're going to break it all down into either a web series or a documentary. We're still trying to figure out the specifics on it so that you can watch and you can learn exactly how to run yourself. Every little detail.
That's powerful.
So you can watch that thing and you can run. You don't need to hire someone with 10 years of experience. You can watch me talking to a screen. Hopefully I can do some better content, but just like, okay, these are the things you got to worry about. This is what you got to set up in order to do it. So that if more and more people are running, more and more people are participating, I think it jumps the quality of the people that get elected.
Okay. That is powerful. And I think that's that in itself is just powerful because it's pretty much, I know I'm bringing it back to textbook. It's teaching a man how to fish, right? And we respect that a lot more. I mean, because the thing is, I'm looking at you, right? And I'm like, okay, you're running for Congress. I don't know. You just hit me with attorney. I'm like, I'm not a lawyer. So I'm already, in my head, I'm ruling myself out. Yeah. But here you are about to give the blueprint to it. And you're like, if I can do it, you can do it. That right then in itself is powerful. You got to respect it. You know what I mean?
My campaign manager has encouraged me to steal this line as if it is my own, but it's too good. I got to give him credit. He kind of likes to describe the campaign as using privilege and power to privilege and empower.
Oh, shit.
And, like, I come from a political family. I come from a place of success. Like, not everyone can just run for Congress at the drop of a hat because it takes... I needed freedom from work to be able to put a lot of time into this and those sorts of things. Not everyone can do that. But if I do one thing as a result of this, it will be that I've created a platform which draws attention. And then instead of just me being at the forefront, I'm putting other people's voices. Other people are learning how to run.
I love that.
And so we have me this election cycle. But maybe we get 3 or 4 people next election cycle. And then we get 16 people the election cycle after that. And then we have 100 the election cycle after that. And inside of 10 years, we have a completely different type of participation in Rhode Island.
And what you're also teaching is that because coming from the urban areas, what we know, we want to be musicians, we want to be basketball players, you're also, you're like, no, that's not all you need to do to make a change to help your family. You could become a congressman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you could become the president. I mean, it's like, that's also, and that's what LeBron was also saying with the schools. Like, you don't always have to dribble. There's other ways. And you're also saying that by teaching them, like, listen, why not do this? You know what I'm saying? So that's just powerful, man. I got to respect it.
I meet a lot of people that they care deeply about their community and they ooze charisma, and I ask them why they don't run for office. And people kind of have those micro expressions. You can kind of see it real quick, and even more so than the words that they say, you see this quick twinge of fear. And we got to get rid of that because those are people that could be serious leaders. But there's something.
Nairu? No.
I was trying to tell him.
Plug it, Nairu.
So, actually, let's talk about Nairu for a second.
Nairu, man. Let's bring him up to bat. You know what I mean?
So Aya lines up Nairu to speak at my campaign rally. We haven't been doing events because of COVID, right?
Of course.
So, well, we decided we got to do one, otherwise we're not going to respect ourselves. So we do it at the park. Everyone's all safe, socially distanced. So my brother sees the flyer. My brother's in the Bronx. His wife is a medical student down there. So he's living down there, and he gets this thing, and he goes, Nairu speaking at you? He's like, how do you know him? And I'm like, oh, yeah, my friend Aya. And he's like, oh, man, he should have been my class president. Wow. It turns out that they went to LaSalle together. They're from the same class.
And he's in the Bronx right now.
Yeah. So my brother's in the Bronx, right? And
wow.
And he's reaching out. He's like, oh, Nairu, like, what's up?
That is insane.
I was dying laughing. And he was saying the first thing, my brother's name is Brady. The first thing Brady said was like, Nairu should have been my class president.
Wow.
And it's kind of like you meet someone with that type of care, that type of charisma, and you wonder why they're not a counselor, while they're not a mayor, why they're not in the General Assembly, whatever it may be.
but it's one of those that we don't know.
Yeah, it's direction.
It's
You know
direct.
what I'm
We
saying?
don't know.
I think
And we fear, like, once you get a government position, it's like, bro, like your it's like your life might change. Like, it's how do you do that? And especially, and not for nothing, it's you don't see a lot of black people in that position.
you're not.
You know what I mean? What our leaders,
and if you
as
do, it doesn't
basketball
look.
players, and you know what I mean.
And if you do, it
Not to
doesn't look
say that,
sexy. So it's like
but-
it's not like a.
It's not a go. It's like,
It's not like when you grow older, it's just like, all right, well, that's just him, and it's like,
Yeah.
but LeBron or like this person, like
that's what I'm
or this
saying.
rapper, it's like I think we need to make it more acceptable to be that, or even you know what it is too. That's not a career path in school. You know what I'm saying? Like one of those things where
Yeah.
it's like a sub.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
And so there's nothing more than diversity, because as people forget, it's not just about bringing people, of different backgrounds and culture to make the changes now, because we need that. But it's also for the people that's coming up soon too. They don't have no one else to look at. You know what I mean? Because I'm not gonna lie, if I'm 12, 10 years old, I'm not gonna look at you as my leader. You know what I mean? It's just a given.
I think one of the biggest things is
But
like,
unless you're coming to my school, then that might be different. You're really active, then that's different. But at the same time, you don't look like me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
As
that's
much
why
as I do it-
diversity is still very important.
Yeah, there is. I like to talk about it. I use the word experiential knowledge, where there's a gap between people that have lived something and people that haven't lived something. And no matter how hard you try, if you haven't lived something, you cannot understand it, right? And that's a communication gap. That's a relationship gap. I mean, it just exists. And all you can do is just try to bridge it every day, right? Just be honest and just try to come
going
across
to
it.
school, talking. Yeah, absolutely.
But if I walk into, schools in Providence that have completely distinct backgrounds from my own personal background, and I'm in my suit and my button down, right, and I can say
You can say whatever you want.
There's a gap.
Yes.
There's a gap.
Yeah.
And a part of that gap will always be trust. And I think it's really hard for someone to look at someone that they can't inherently trust and say, I want to be like them. And
So you have to build that.
you do. Yeah. But this is one of my favorite political stories of all time. And this goes back to kind of like actualizing power. Senator Bill Bradley, he was an NBA All-Star before he was a United States Senator. And he was being talked about potentially running for president. So he's at one of these like $1,000 a plate dinners, right? At one of those country clubs.
Of course.
The kids come with
the
the slab of butter.
Yep.
For the bread, right? And so the kid gives him the slab of butter. And so Senator Bradley says, he's like, can I get another slab of butter? And the kid says, no. And he goes, what do you mean, no? Do you have any idea who I am? He's like, I'm a former NBA All-Star, current U.S. Senator. I might be the next president of the United States.
Right.
The kid goes, do you have any idea who I am? And he goes, no. He goes, I'm the guy in charge of the butter.
That is the illest dude ever.
That's politics. All right?
I love
You
that.
don't need to be president to be powerful. You just got to find that butter and hold on
That's
and
right.
make people come to you.
I love that shit. That is a beautiful story.
I love it.
What?
I love it.
He's like, you know who I am?
I'll tell
I
one
love that.
other political story, and if you understand these two stories, you know
Wow.
all you need to know about politics.
Wow.
Mark Twain wrote a thing called Corn Pone Pinions. And he said, if you want to know a man's politics, ask him where he gets his corn pone, which is basically to say, what's your politics? It's how I get my money. If you get your money from the stock market, that's your politics. If you get your money from working, that's your politics. If you get your money from a government job, you don't want to cut budgets. If you get your money from a private sector job, you want government to get smaller. All right?
Wow.
So if you just try to understand how people feed their family, then you know their politics. And
Wow.
it's important because that's how you have to talk to them. You have to meet people where they are.
I got to pound that. That's strong. That's
Mark
strong.
Twain and butter.
I
You're
love
good.
it. Put them together, what you got? Dylan Conley.
Done.
So before I don't want to end this too much in a bad note or in a sad note, but I really wanted to get back into the police thing and whatever.
Sure.
Because we were just talking about the NBA. And I think prior to this, we were really just talking about how awesome it is that the NBA is really supporting the players and everything of that sort. So one of the things that keep arising, and I don't know if Congress deals with this, but it's really about just the police brutality. Because this is what it is, right? So one of the biggest things that happen is that everything is changing except for that.
Yep.
Which is the weirdest thing. But okay, we appreciate it. So one of the things that keeps coming up is defunding the police.
Mm-hmm.
So I have my own personal thing about it. I don't feel like they need to defund them.
Oh yeah.
I think they need more funding, more training, more hours, because there's something, you know what I mean? So so now the playoffs are down. They're on, you know what I mean? It's silent because of Jacob Blake. You know what I mean? Who was now paralyzed. Tragedy. It is. So what do you feel about that whole statement of defunding the police?
So I think when I first heard it, you know, I had to raise an eyebrow, and because when you hear defund the police, you hear like lack of
reallocating would be a better term, but
it intimidates people, but I'm not really one like. I'm the guy that, you know, like push the glasses up, give me the thing, like I want to read the proposal. And when you get into it, it's dead on. I mean, it's basically a discussion about that the communities are not being provided the services they actually need.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm starting to think about it, and then there was a long form article by Vox. I can send it to you later on. It's absolutely brilliant, and it has completely shaped my opinion. I was searching, and this has really been like a guiding light for me. Mm-hmm. And he explains in great detail that we recruit police to be warriors, we train them to be warriors, we equip them to be warriors, and then we put them in the street and ask them to be social workers.
Mm-hmm.
The entire concept of what a police officer is this idea that when like guns are firing and there's a live fight, there they are, the hero of the moment.
Okay, go ahead.
The reality is that's like less than 0.1% of their time spent over the course of their career.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we have designed an entire system to provide a service that we need 0.1% of the time and completely ignored 99.9% of the community need.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have now is we provide a service that the community needs 0.1% of the time. And then the other 99.9% of the time, they're using the wrong thing. Right? To a hammer, every problem is a nail. To a warrior, every challenge is a fight. If I'm having a mental health episode, the last thing I need is another fight.
Yeah.
Right.
Compassion.
But if I am equipped with a bulletproof vest, a gun, a taser, and I'm told to go to this corner because someone's acting out, I'm ready for a fight.
I'm ready for war.
Yeah.
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 But meanwhile, it's just a mental health episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is what I talk about when I talk about like these systems are forcing people in these completely untenable situations. I think there's a huge amount of problematic interactions between the community and the police that are a result of the system we've designed that doesn't provide the community the services they need, and we force police officers who are trained to be paramilitary to provide those services.
Yeah, two things to that. It's like, I had a kid ask me the other day, why didn't they shoot him in the leg? I said, no, they're not trained to shoot you in the leg. They're trained to shoot center mass.
Yeah.
Whenever they shoot, it's to neutralize you.
Right.
It's not to stop you or try to, wound you to where they
Because
can
at the
get
end
to
of the
you.
day, I mean,
it's
to
knock you down.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, go ahead. It's fine.
No, but that's pretty much what it is. I mean, because coming from somebody who has a concealed carry, right? You're not trained. You're trained. If you're in danger, that's when you're supposed to shoot.
Yeah.
So you're not shooting to stop the person. You're shooting to save your life. So that's why there's a divide of the guy was walking away, Jacob.
Yeah.
And he's turned and you shoot him in the back. It's like
So obviously,
yeah, it's insane.
The idea that there's any form of training on the planet that facilitates shooting someone in the back is preposterous.
I'm a concealed carry owner, and I know that's when somebody turns their back to you, you're not supposed to engage.
Yeah.
I don't. That's so.
Well, how did we even get there? How did we get to a moment where instead of police officers seeing a situation and finding a way to de-escalate or just trying to even understand what's going on, somehow it goes to 10 immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately.
And he's running. And quite frankly, if I was in his shoes, I understand.
Yeah.
I'd want to be in my car in that moment too. And there are so many things that go wrong that lead up to him being paralyzed.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are so many different spots where we could intervene to improve these scenarios, and we're not doing any of them.
At all. And what's weird is that I didn't mention this to anybody just yet, but being a victim of police brutality, it's insane how it goes from 0 to 100. And that's how you said it just snapped like that, you know?
Yeah.
In my situation, I got grabbed and I didn't even know I was under arrest. I got grabbed from behind and apparently I'm under arrest. What do you want me to do? I didn't hear you say anything.
If someone grabs me from behind,
What's your first reaction?
I'm turning on my heels and I'm ready to go.
I'm ready to go.
Because that's just adrenaline.
Oh, yeah.
That's human biology.
But apparently I'm wrong. So, you know what I mean? So, and the reason I say this is because I wasn't going to say anything because it's still a pending case. But I said it now because I love how you said that. It's how do you expect people to react? It's morality. Like, you're supposed to be there to de-escalate, but it's somebody, you're not doing things right. It's not defunding.
Yeah.
It's funding. You need more awareness. So you're trained to be a warrior. You're trained to be a social worker. I get it. Their job's not easy. I have plenty of friends that are cops.
Yep.
Their jobs are not easy.
Yeah,
But-
I never say that. I think,
Of course.
I think that the issue that Americans have towards the police, one, police are reactionary. They don't ever really stop crime. It's like it happens, then we try to figure out why it happened. And
Yes,
get
and that's
the
what they
person.
were.
You
Yes.
know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So like one of the and the other thing is, I have a hard time being not sympathetic because I understand that they have, you know what I mean, that they have their personal life, their job is to stop whatever is going on without getting hurt themselves or
Yeah.
hurt someone else.
Absolutely.
I get it. But at some point we have to look at, why are regular citizens held to a higher standard than people that were sworn in to protect those citizens?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They hide behind these laws that directly help them.
Yeah.
And that they're trained to know.
Yeah.
That the average citizen is not trained to know. It's not like there's a class in school that you're taught all the way through high school. These are the laws and you should really follow those. You know what I'm saying? This is like, actually, you know what? You should probably on your own time look that stuff up.
Right.
Amongst doing your homework or just being an adult. When you get adult, living your normal life.
Yeah.
Most people don't know the law until they break it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, which is crazy.
And
but it's up
we
to us
give
to know.
people that actually know the law and then break it a lot more chances than
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the things that if you think about just kind of what police policy is, right? And instead of asking, does it make sense in every situation, just ask, like, where it doesn't make sense. Like, the way the American policing culture and system is performed, like, where is this a scenario that it works very well? I would assume that it's similar to what we use as an occupying military force in, like, Iraq and Afghanistan.
Okay.
Why are we approaching Americans the way we're approaching active war zones?
Right.
It just,
Why is your first instant that?
and it's, I mean, like we were talking about, like it seems as though they're trained that way. It
Right.
seems as though, and then we send police officers out into the field as if they are an occupying force. And then we say serve and protect. But serve and protect is a weird concept for someone who has access to like full on military garb and assault weapons.
Right. And it also kind of goes into what you said before. It's like going into schools and where's the trust? You know what I mean? If we talk about it all the time, something goes down, I'm really not calling the cops because I don't think you're gonna do a good job. I don't trust you. So I think it's not not defunding, but it's also
you can actually see that now with the we're urban podcast with the Meg Thee Stallion thing. It's like I'm afraid to even tell them there's a gun in the car.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm a
Because
concealed carry.
I got shot by a person in that car, and I'm trying to save all of us so we're all not killed because there's a perceived gun in the car.
Yeah.
I'm even afraid to say that I even got shot to you guys.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where black people genuinely don't want the police involved at all.
Of course, because we don't trust them.
Because we don't trust you. Most times it makes it worse.
Yeah.
So that's something that, like, right, we talk about these bubbles and different cultural experiences, right? And this is something that I had no clue of as a kid.
Understood.
Just didn't.
Yeah.
And I'll go all the way up through college, and just like a personal example of just how different the experience is on my end.
Mhm.
And that's how I perceived it to be everywhere. And I just couldn't have been more wrong. I was ignorant. And college party, got into a scrap. The police showed up. I was thankful.
Yeah.
I knew the guy. He was kind of around the area. I didn't think anything bad was going to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't think I was going to get arrested. I didn't think to my mind, the second I saw the police officer there, the only thing I thought was going to happen was everything was going to de-escalate.
That's the plan, right?
I'm going to guess that would not have been the same experience for either of you.
No.
No way.
I'm trying to fade it to the black. I'm trying to get out of there.
Our first instance is a run because they grab us. It's, you know.
I mean, I saw him the next morning, right? And it's a college football game the next morning. And I'm like, found him, like, hey, man, thanks for coming out last night. Really appreciated that. It got a little weird.
It got a little weird, man. You know? And you were filling up on my girl, bro. I don't know. Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, I think for a lot of white America, that has been our lived experience. So that's what we perceive it to be. And so for a lot of white America, when they see these things happening, they think they're happening because someone has done something to make it happen.
Right.
And
you don't know.
That's their first instinct a lot of times.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if you really read comments, the ignorance in those things.
It's like, what did he do? Or the, the 17-year-old that they killed the two people within that rally. It's like, one of the things that there's a divide is that there's always excuses, or in a sense of like, okay, they say Jacob Blake was this and that in his prior life. What does that have to do with anything? He was literally just gunned down. Why are you bringing up? Or the kid that killed him, he was an aspiring police officer. What does that matter? He still killed two people cold-blooded. It's like they try to make excuses or the media.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So
I agree.
But I really don't want to trail off, you know what I mean? But I just really wanted to know if you read those police policies, how you felt about the funding or defunding, pretty much.
There's actually another thing that, if we can nerd out for another second on the policing issue. On the back end of Ferguson, there was a couple of reports written by the Department of Justice, and one of them hits to basically the way the municipality of Ferguson interacted with its African American population was to arrest, fine, tax, charge permit fees. When they fell behind on a fine, charge interest.
Wow.
So the police force they had a financial incentive to harass the African American population. That's actually how they paid their bills. So I don't think you can simultaneously say you serve and protect someone while using them as your ATM.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that as any individual police officer.
Right.
I'm talking about the municipality of Ferguson looked at the African-American population as an ATM. So, of course, they're going to be harassed more than they should be.
Yeah.
Because you're being paid to harass them.
Yeah. I got to feed my family. It always comes down to money.
Right?
Always comes down to money.
So, like, Mark Twain, Ferguson, where'd you get your corn poem? Well, I get it from fines on the African-American community.
All right. That's what it is. Terrible. But before we end this, we also want to say thank you again for coming out.
Oh, thanks for having
me.
me.
But we also...
No. You have a question? Or
No.
I had a question. Right before we end this is
I don't want
give me a final question, I guess.
Yeah.
Is what type of world do you want your child to be living to live in?
That's a good
What is your vision for that?
I want him to either stand or fail on his own merit. I don't want his success in life to be because he is my son. I don't want his failure in life to be because he is my son. I want him to be understood and identified based on his own decisions and his own work. And I think true freedom is only born from true equity. And what I mean by that is, before someone's born, you can take their zip code, gender, race, ethnicity, and sexuality and make pretty solid predictions about what their health and wealth will be over the course of their life. And what that is proof of is that we're not truly free. Because things that don't have anything to do with any decisions we've made are controlling our outcomes.
Oh, yeah.
So until we get to a place where my zip code, race, gender, sexuality has no impact on predicting my health and wealth, we don't live in a free society.
That's right. That's right.
So that's the world that I want to live in. That's the world that I want to build.
You hear that, Copeland? Absolutely.
I'm gonna show you the footage of this someday.
Yeah,
kid. And then I'm gonna tell you you're named after a ballerina.
But thank you again, man.
Appreciate
That is thank you so much for
thank
ending
you.
it that way. But we also as your son, he probably loves Marvel or DC movies, and we just recently had a loss, so we just wanted to
true.
Yeah, Chadwick Boseman. Yeah, sad, man.
Very
Yo,
sad.
man,
Yeah, sad, man.
this kid's crying all over the world.
43
man.
years old,
Yeah.
colon cancer, so moment of silence.
Rob Young.
All right, Wakanda forever.
Yeah.
We want to do, but Dylan, man, thank you so much for coming out again. But again, like we said, we really want to continue the conversation.
Yeah.
Continue talking. We'll hopefully come smoke cigars with you.
That'd be a good time.
You know what I mean? That would be
And if you ever need a place to,
Yes.
come through and express yourself or,
Yeah.
it's always open.
And we're
Love
steadily
to.
growing, so we're here now. But that's another thing too. You are the board chairman.
Chairman of the board of licenses. And
Hopefully
so
we can.
I would
talk
love
to
to
you
do
directly.
an industry conversation. I would love to do an industry conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be awesome. Especially like get a podium out and just have everybody officials talk and just have that
That'd be great.
urban platform so you guys can connect with
That would be
the
great.
community. That would be awesome. So
Yeah.
we'll talk some more about that for
Definitely.
sure.
Definitely.
Awesome, guys.
So,
Dylan
can
Conley?
you just reiterate one more time for everybody
Yes,
about voting, about when to vote?
my man.
Just so we can close
You can go to your local city or town hall right now with your ID. If you go there, they'll print out your ballot for you, and then you can fill it out right there. You can do that anytime where the Board of Canvassers or City Hall is open. September 8th, that's your primary election. That will be all of your different voting precincts everywhere. You can find out where your voting precinct is if you Google Rhode Island Secretary of State or Rhode Island Board of Elections. It should be right on the front page. I'm not 100% sure. It should be right on the front page. It should bring you right to it.
My man.
Dylan Conley for Congress.
My
Conley
man.
for Congress, ConleyForCongress.com. Check it out. Say hello. If you send me a message, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, I am actually the one that's personally responding to all the messages.
Oh,
So
for real?
Nice.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to follow you now. All right.
send it to me. I'll get back
No
to you.
robots.
No robots. No robots.
Awesome, man. Hey, man, it's been great. Dylan Conley, make sure you vote September 8th, or you
September
could do it early, like you mentioned, at City Hall or whatnot. So, Freddie JB
Udi,
and Sure Live in the back.
he's gone.
He gone.
One,
He's probably
two,
taking a shit.
3.
Hey! Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
Take care.